So today I want to talk about what I believe are the top three biggest mistakes when it comes to working with multimedia files. The first one is simply choosing the wrong file format. So oftentimes what I see is that people will be working in an application and or with a device and in saving the file and saving the content, they save it in a file format where they're throwing away a lot of the data. And that is because some formats are going to be lossy. They get rid of data in order to make the file smaller. There are other formats that are lossless. They don't throw any information away in order to save the file. So for example, if you were using a digital camera and we are taking pictures and we want to be able to save those pictures and work with those pictures and edit those pictures, most cameras, especially consumer, even prosumer cameras, are going to be saving these as a JPEG. And JPEGs are going to be a lossy form of compression in most cases. There are settings on the camera that allow you to adjust the quality or the amount of compression. And it would certainly be better to set that so that there is as little compression as possible uh, because you are throwing away less data. There's less compression to that data. But ideally, what you are doing is saving that in a raw format where none of the data is being thrown away. Why waste all this time going to some event, going to some location, getting a picture, a once in a lifetime picture, and then having a lot of the data associated with that image being thrown away? Instead, you want to shoot it, if possible, in a less compressed or a non-compressed format, like a raw mode would. Now, there can be reasons for doing a JPEG, and this is why they do it on the consumer grade cameras, is because they're going to take up less space and you can get more pictures on your media. RAW is going to take up a larger amount of your space and you'd be able to get only a smaller number of pictures on that media. So there are oftentimes trade-offs when we're working with multimedia type of files. I will also see people saving things in the wrong format when it comes time to share those images. So while we might be saving some images as raw when they're on the camera, we would certainly not want to normally share that or put that image on a website using a raw format. So in most cases, this lossy mode is going to be for when we are sharing them with people. So our JPEGs work very well for websites and web pages because we're going to be sharing those. And they work very well because we don't need all of that information for people to be able to experience that picture and see a large amount of the detail. It throws away stuff that we're normally not going to visually recognize as missing. So perfectly okay in those cases to be sharing it as a JPEG or paying whatever is appropriate for that particular medium. But in other cases where we are trying to make sure that we are capturing all that information, we want to make sure we're using a lossless when possible. So normally I'll call these for archival types of purposes, that we are capturing something and we want to have the option later on for making smaller versions. And I'll be talking about this in the third item that I have here in the biggest mistakes. So these first and third ones are going to be relatively closely related. Another mistake I see people commonly make is going big. So a little bit of explanation first. So a image has a certain size in pixels. We can take that image and we can, and it doesn't have to be an image, it could be a video clip, it could be an audio clip. So really any of the multimedia kinds of files. We could take that size and we could make it bigger. We could increase the size to a larger size. And this is called upsampling. So we are going from an image of a certain size, it contains a certain number of pixels, and we are going to a larger size that's going to contain more pixels. Where did those extra pixels come from? It invented them. It made them up. It didn't know exactly what was there. It took maybe a relatively intelligent guess based on the surrounding pixels as what might be there, but they're not truly sampled pixels. They are not something that came from the original photograph or the original scan, from the original video footage, from the original audio recording. These were ones that were simply created. So the problem here then is that we have created a larger image, therefore a larger file as well, but we have not necessarily increased anything associated with the quality or the fidelity of that image. So people want to take small images and they want to increase their size, but you're not going to gain anything from by doing it. It's not going to be any better quality, but it is going to be a bigger file size. So you do not want to upsample your images. It is okay to go the other direction. It is okay to take your images and go to a smaller size, because we are taking things that are of a particular size and we are going to get rid of some of those pixels to make it a smaller size. We are taking something of a particular file size and we're going to make it a smaller file size. So this is downsampling, and it is totally appropriate and expected to do that. So that then relates to my third and final thing, and that is going big. Say, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Isn't that number 2? Yes. But going big for number 2 talked about taking an existing image and upsampling it, making it bigger. Here, what I'm talking about by going big is people will, like if I go back to the digital camera example, you will have options for your settings. And one of those settings may be the frame size. So how big is that image based on its width and its height? The mistake is really not going big, because some people will choose to use a small frame size. And if what we want to do is avoid upsampling, then the only choices we have are to go to smaller sizes. Well, if this is already a medium or small frame size, the only sizes I can pick are the original and things that are smaller. So ideally what we want to do is have a very large frame size, because from the large, I can make any and all the sizes that are the same size and smaller from it. That gives me more options. That gives me more choices. Now, if I am recording audio, I also want to be recording at relatively high quality settings. I want to be capturing as much of the audio. I want my fidelity to be as high as possible. I want my recording to be as much like the original as possible, so that I have this high quality image, audio, video, whatever the multimedia file is. I have it as a high quality, because from there I can always make it smaller. So when possible, keep your quality settings as high as possible so that you are having available to you all these other options for downsampling. Your video camera, it may have different settings for frame size, for quality. If you can, keep them higher. Mention recording, mention digital camera. Same can be true with scanning. Now that doesn't mean jack up the settings as high as the scanner will go, because there is a point based on what you're scanning as to the amount of detail you're actually going to get out of that. But you want to scan at a highest possible reasonable setting for that object, so you're capturing as much detail as you can, so that you have as many options as possible. You may not be able to ever rescan that image again. That image, that object, you may have returned and you will not have access to it again. The event that you're recording, you may never have access to that event again to be able to re-record. That digital camera, you may never have access to that one in a lifetime event again to be able to take the picture a second time. And so because of that, you want to be keeping in mind that you want to record those events at archival types of settings, as high quality as possible with that particular device and your media that you have available to you, so that you have as many options later on as possible. So those are my three biggest mistakes I see people make: using the wrong file format, upsampling or going big, and number three, not going big when they should be. And that's in particular with the different settings you have for actually capturing those events. Thank you very much. I hope this proved to be useful.